Hey, hello everybody, and welcome back to the Gospel of Comics. I am your host, the Church of Failure, and with me, as always, is the trusty co-host Eric McCartney. How you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I've been better, but it cost more. I think everybody already knows what we're talking about tonight. X-Men '92, based on the X-Men TV series. What do you think about that?
Oh, it was fun. I enjoyed it. It was a nice little nostalgic read.
Nah, man, what do you think about the show before we get into the book?
Oh, the show.
Yeah,
My bad.
that was like peak childhood for us, wasn't it?
Oh yeah. That show was the shit when I was a kid. That was probably one of like my first major introductions into like superheroes.
I mean, it was peak Saturday morning cartoons. It was X-Men, Spider-Man. Um, what else was around back then? I mean, that was pretty much it. That was the lineup. I think you had the Adventures of Superman a little bit later on, but it was targeted to younger kids. That was
Yeah.
what, right around Power Rangers era as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Power Rangers was also my shit when I was a kid.
Oh yeah. Now, one thing is the TV show didn't really follow any thread of the comic books. It was a lot like what some of the movies are doing now, like what we were talking about with the Joker had done last night, which is why I'm weary to say that just because they're not going with the source material, that the Joker is going to be a bad movie. I'm just not interested in seeing Joaquin Phoenix half naked that much.
Which is fair.
Yeah. So anyway, as a lot of you will probably know, the X-Men cartoon show started in 1992 and ran to what, 97? Let me look that up here.
Yeah, that I'm not sure.
Yeah, I believe it ran until 97 for 5 seasons. Yeah, that is correct according to IMDb. And we all know that if it's on the internet, it's true.
Especially Facebook.
No, IMDb.
No, but it's especially true if it's on Facebook.
Oh, right, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, we do have, there were 5 seasons, so there were some really interesting, like, storylines going on in that. And right on cue, we have a small church running into the. Yep, there she goes. But it starts out with Night of the Sentinels, which the first story we're going to be looking at actually pays a little bit of an homage to, with the X-Men being attacked at the mall by a Sentinel. So.
Yeah, the biggest thing with the show was I was super young when it first came out. So, I watched reruns and stuff, but most of my memories are just like...
Oh, yeah. No.
Are more just like character memories and stuff. I do remember one bit where... was it Rogue and Gambit are down in Louisiana?
Yeah. Oh, you're
have
talking.
to, like, fight
yeah,
off, like,
that's the Externally Yours. It's based on the tithing, honor amongst thieves kind of storyline. Yeah, that was season 2, and essentially they were supposed to. It was about a marriage and the tithe of Remy's hidden past, and it was really weird. But there was like magic and mutants and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I just remember Rogue and Gambit specifically down in Louisiana, and that and that it was fun because those two were always entertaining together, which I thought they did pretty well in these comics.
Oh yeah, they did. I think they captured the essence of all the characters from the show. Now, before we get into the feature, there were a couple of little points I wanted to touch on, and the first one being that X-Men '92 is not the first attempt to capture that cartoon series in the pages of a comic book, right? You had the
Yeah,
what was it? X-Men Adventures was the name of it.
which is such a
Very,
creative name for a comic series.
oh yeah, it's very '90s. I bagged and boarded a lot. Bagged and boarded a lot of these in the old comic book store from the back issue bin. But
No,
it
see
took.
if it was peak '90s title, it would have to be called Extreme X-Men, and like Wolverine would have to be on a skateboard, and like Cyclops would be on a BMX bike.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Now, one thing you just said there kind of makes me chuckle a little bit because in the books we're about to review, Cassandra Nova actually makes a reference to the extreme quote unquote and all of the taglines that used to be used in comics. But
Yeah, that was. I liked all those little nods going through
right
all this.
now there were you know let me just take a brief aside. It is 10 days after the 4th of July, and there are still people setting off fireworks in my neighborhood.
Don't you love that?
Absolutely, absolutely. That is what I love. That is what I want. When I have a when I live in a home somewhere, what I really really want to happen is for my neighbors to be shutting fireworks off at 10 o'clock at night, 10 days after the 4th of July. So
Hey, where I used to live, neighbors 2 houses down would set off fireworks almost every night, starting about mid-June till like September.
until from the time fireworks went on sale to the time you could no longer find them.
Yeah, basically.
But yeah,
It was so much fun.
we've got the image for issue one. Look at that price tag, $1.25 in 1992. So it took less than 20 years to increase the price of comics four or five times. That's fantastic. You can see the UPC square in the bottom is a 30th anniversary of Spider-Man design because these were obviously direct market comics and not grocery store or newsstand comics. But obviously, this series it took a lot of its I don't know inspiration, influence, art style, everything from the animated series. You can see that in the color of the costumes and the fact that Gambit's a prominent character, which never really was a thing in the X-Men. Um, I think
Which
Claremont
is
wrote a
a
little bit
shame
of.
because he's. Cause,
Go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say it's a shame because he's such a fun character.
He is, but only because of this show, I think. I mean, his personality is mainly
Yeah.
because of this show.
Yeah.
Matt Christie chimes in the chat saying, "92. I just graduated high school that year. Jesus Christ, man, you're a little older than we are."
Yeah, I was 1 year old in '92.
You must have read the good X-Men comics when you were a kid. I envy that. Matt Christie must have had access to the Claremont era of comics when they were still coming out.
Yeah.
What I would do,
The,
what I would say. In any
right.
event,
How's that time machine coming?
oh man, oh he was reading heavy metal back then. Good choice, man. Carton big boxes. Sorry for the dead air. My children are destroying my home in the background.
I was wondering what was going on.
Yeah. Anyway, X-Men Adventures was the first dip into animated series comics. They ran for, I think, 3 what they call seasons, would equate to what we know as a volume. So we had 3 volumes of X-Men Adventure, and then right around, I don't know, 2015, 2014, 2015, the Secret Wars started back up. And for those of you unfamiliar with Marvel at the time, we're in peak event season. This is the 3rd iteration of something called Secret Wars. And essentially, Marvel stopped publication of almost every title that they were currently publishing. And the event started. It was a 9-book event, all based around the idea of Doctor Doom having supreme power over everything and everyone in every Marvel universe, and having saved little pieces of each universe to create what they called a battle world. Now, this battle world is not like what we knew in Secret Wars that came out in 1987. This battle world was created by the remnants of Marvel universes that have been destroyed. One of those universes was universe. It was Earth 92131, and that was the X-Men 92 universe. So this kind of answers the question as to why these X-Men were so drastically different than other X-Men of the time, how they had adventures that never happened in the comics, all that good stuff. It's a nice way for Marvel to kind of tidy up shop and bring characters back to a canonical level. But one thing that I really appreciated about this series, the Secret Wars in general, was that even though all of these universes existed, they explained it with the idea that all of them were essentially walled off as individual zones, and there was a leader of each zone. You weren't really allowed to step outside of that unless you were accosted by the police force of this world, which was known as the Thor Corps. Thors were fantastic, by the way. That's one of the tie-ins we're gonna have to talk about one day.
Yeah, those are fun.
But anyway, so that's where the first volume that we're going to be talking about took place. You'll see a few references to Doom and Doomguard and the Thors and all that, so that kind of gives you a heads up on that. I may, if it deemed necessary during the recanting of the story as we do, I'll make mention of it in the middle of it. But really, the last thing that I wanted to touch on before we just jumped into all this, and we're 15 minutes in, so we need to get to it, I guess. But
yeah,
X-Men is relaunching soon. We talked about that briefly before. But Jonathan Hickman, the writer for the Secret Wars in 2015, is actually taking the reins of the entire X-Men universe, like side of comics, in Marvel Comics. And hopefully doing something better with them than has been done recently. Because I haven't read an X-Men comic, but I have seen a lot of people trashing on it. Now, I'm not issuing judgment myself based on that, but I haven't seen a lot of positivity for the recent plethora of X-Men comics that have come out with subtitles as colors: X-Men Blue, X-Men Gold, X-Men Red, X-Men Black. I don't.
Hey, diversity is our strength.
I don't think that means what you think it means, Ayrton.
Doesn't?
Also, go try and call somebody yellow and see how that really gets you anywhere. Try to call somebody gold. To call somebody blue.
Hey, you know what? We're all part of people kind. Okay.
We're all part of Smurf kind. Is that what you said?
People kind. Isn't that what Trudeau said we should refer to humanity as?
Yeah, that's the last motherfucker I'm taking advice from. But we are, I personally am excited about Jonathan Hickman doing a run on X-Men. His run on Avengers and Fantastic Four were both fantastic. And up to the Secret Wars. Uncanny and Age of X-Man, I think those were some of the newer titles that led into his arc. So that's reassuring to hear. Aggressively relaxing. I don't know if I follow you on Twitter because I don't know if your name is something, but thank you for jumping in. It's the first time I've seen you. Welcome to the show. But I'm really looking forward to Hickman's run. Like I said, his run on Avengers and Fantastic Four kind of weaved together to give us like the longest intro to an event that we've ever seen. And it was done well and tastefully. Like when I was going back and reading old events that I had missed when I got back into comics, that was one of the first ones that I looked up, and it was like the event itself was 250 something books, but just the oh yeah, Castro's son Justin. Yeah, that's Matt Christie in the chat. Thanks, buddy. But no, going back and reading the build up to Secret Wars, Comic Book Herald. Oh shit! Thank you, man. I hope you enjoy it, and we always welcome feedback. That's too aggressively relaxing in the chat. He searched comic and then live, and I'm here, first timer.
Welcome. Buckle in, buddy.
Buckle in, friend. Tonight we're talking about X-Men '92, so we're glad to have you. Anyway, yeah, his Avengers and Fantastic Four run. Let me finally get this damn sentence out. They were the longest intro to a event that Marvel had ever really done, because he had been writing the story of Secret Wars 2019 pretty much for his entire career at Marvel.
Okay.
So, with that,
now,
go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, just real quick, I think you should give a quick explanation on where the name comes from again.
The name what?
Just because I find it hilarious. The name Secret War, like how they came up with that as the name of the event.
You really like that story, huh? No,
I do. It's just so ridiculous. I love it.
Secret Wars was decided back in the 80s to do a product line for, I believe it was Mattel, for the X-Men toys. And Mattel went to Marvel, not even X-Men, they went to Marvel and they said, you need to do a story with all of your famous superheroes and villains in it that'll coincide with this toy line. And they did a market research test to find out what they should name that storyline, and it was Secret and Wars were the two words that tested the best. And that's how they got the name for it. So far we've had 2 series of Secret Wars, well, 3, and with the most recent one. And then there was a Nick Fury comic series called Secret War that was also using those 2 words. So they've really, I think they've expired their welcome with Secret and Wars. Probably need to do some new market research. We've had Civil War, we've had Secret Wars, we've had War of the Realms. Really, I'm getting tired of all the war. Like, whoever's running Marvel Studios really needs to come up with some peacetime stories.
But you say that, now they're going to come out with an event called Secret Peace.
That's correct.
Where it comes out that all the fighting between all the heroes and villains was all just a show, and like after the fights they go out and get like beers in like a secret like meeting hall every day.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, let's go ahead and get into to Volume 1. This, like I said, it's an 8-issue digital comic tie-in to Marvel Superhero Secret Wars 2015. I don't think it was named all that. The first one was Marvel Superheroes. This one's just Secret Wars, but whatever. Um, X-Men 92 was actually a Marvel Infinite Comics release, and Infinite Comics, much like DC's, what is DC's digital comic only exclusive series called? Injustice is one of the titles, but these are comics that were
Oh,
only
okay.
only available online at their release date, and then like 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later, once you got the 2 issues of the digital comic out, you would get an issue of the physical comic, like the
Okay.
superhero Mason's Lodge. Matt Christie said, "Jesus Christ." uh,
Exactly. They have secret handshakes and everything.
that's right. That's right. Apathy. Apathy, the rapper, talks about being a Mason. He's where all my Masonic knowledge comes from. So mote it be, brother. I think is what I'm supposed to say there. If the stream goes dead, they got me. You guys, the Illuminati got me. Um,
That's right. Are you doing the symbol?
absolutely, absolutely. You mean the OK symbol, right?
Yeah, totally.
But like I said, issue one, Marvel Infinite Comics, was an online only release. It's a different format, so tonight's viewing experience is going to be a little different. But we'll try and hit all the high notes. No racket stream tonight, so we may go a little bit longer just to get through this and the first 4 issues of Volume 2. But I actually really like the story. I read it when it first came out as part of the Secret Wars event. Ayrton, what do you think about it?
I really liked it. I thought it was fun, especially the dialogue.
Yeah.
It
Well,
perfectly captures that 90s like TV dialogue writing.
yeah. And it brings back some characters that were never fully explored in the TV series as well. Um, it makes some kind of sideways references to all of them, and that's fun.
Yeah.
Uh, so let's just jump into this. Issue one opens up, like I said, with a little bit of a flashback. The entire team is at the mall playing laser tag.
Playing extreme laser tag.
Yes, yes. No, I apologize. Extreme laser tag. Um, and you know, it opens up, and you know that they're at a laser tag place, but they're talking about it like it's a danger room drill or something like that. You eventually find out that there was some damage to the danger room. You're introduced
Caused
to
by
all.
Wolverine.
Yes, it's always called Wolverine. One of my favorite parts in the TV series was when he turned Cyclops' car into a convertible. But this little introduction here, and let me show you guys something cool. So it's gonna be interesting as to how I show you guys like the pages on this because it's a digital comic. It's a little more difficult just to show per page because here's how different things happen. Like we'll go backwards a little bit and then go back forward so you guys can kind of see how this format is. I actually really liked it. It was kind of like what they called a motion comic back in the day. That was a video that had like some animation to the panels, but different in the sense that the word bubbles and the picture placement were, you know, they would change the format while keeping still images. So a little different, a little harder to follow at first if you're a boomer like I am.
Oh,
But
it took me a minute to get used to it too.
but once you get there, well, keep in mind I read these in physical copies the first time I read them. So, but it kind of grew on me, and it makes a comic book a lot longer than a standard comic book as well, which I appreciate. Anything that gives you more content for the same price, I'm good with.
Right.
Yeah, pretty much. It's almost like responding to AR in the chat. It's almost like an arcade game, like the old pop up animations and whatnot, and it was really fun. But anyway, you're introduced to all the characters individually, kind of gives you a little bit of an explanation. So again, first off, that's a point in my book. Any comic book that kind of tries to grasp the reader by telling them information that they may not have at their first comic book always gets an okay for me. A veteran
Oh,
reader
definitely.
will start skipping this information as they see it, and I don't mind it being there because I like to think somebody picked this book up for the first time and they read, Cyclops's description or whatever, or they saw it online and they read it and they were hooked into X-Men for the first time. That's the way I like to think about it. Sure, it's a long shot, but I appreciate when a comic book understands the old Jack Kirby and Stan Lee moniker that every comic is somebody's first.
Yeah.
So, we open up in the mall, and that's what I was talking about. The homage comes from because eventually they all lose to Jubilee at laser tag, like you do. She makes some references to living in the arcade 24/7, and then what happens except Sentinels attack?
Naturally.
Oh yeah, every time. Um, but it's like I said, it's an homage to the first episode of the TV show where you had. Oh come on, is this really going to be how it does me? All right, let's see. Let's see. Maybe this works.
Well, at least your mic's not muted this time.
Shut up. We don't talk about how I'm a boomer. Let's see. That way. Yep. Okay. So they're at a mall, and Sentinels break through the roof and attack. So almost, point for point, exactly what happened in the first episode of the cartoon series. Obviously, this isn't a retelling of that story because Jubilee's already part of the team and not an orphan who's just meeting the X-Men for the first time. But Cyclops kicks the team into gear. Wolverine goes to work, cutting them up, all that good stuff. You get the X-Men.
Can we just mention that he was shopping just for clothes while in his X-Men uniform?
Yeah, we can. We can mention
because it's just so ridiculous.
Oh, absolutely.
I love it.
But yeah, we'll show that. We'll do that little exchange. Actually, we'll pull that whole thing up and see what it gets us. Sorry, I have to keep adjusting my window to keep it from giving too much dead space in OBS. You'll have to forgive me. And in order to kind of keep up with copyright, I don't want to show too many pages. But yeah, he's looking for a shirt. He's talking to a sales lady. She sounds like she's almost into him. Saved her sister, all that good stuff, and then Wolverine's spider sense obviously goes off when the entire mall starts vibrating. He puts his mask on, and then the Sentinel just reaches out and grabs him. But again, these comics, I love the dynamic style of the artwork. Like whoever designed these, they really did something very interesting.
Oh yeah.
This is people that do digital comics and exclusively digital comics could take a lesson from this. I think not necessarily a lesson. I'm sure there are other comic books that do things like this, but I like
maybe
school.
Inspiration.
Yeah. Just because of the interactiveness of it almost. And I use that word lightly, but it feels like AR said, it feels like an old arcade game, like something that people used to see when they were playing Street Fighter or Marvel versus Street Fighter or whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway, Sentinel attacks at a mall, and then we get our first little touch of how this reality is just kind of off from what we're used to from the X-Men. And that is when they get the Sentinels taken care of, they initially call for, Baron Kelly. And we know who Senator Kelly is from the TV show. However, Baron Kelly is wearing a cloak with a doom seal on it, and that's how the Baron of each area is designated. This guard here pointing a gun at Wolverine obviously has a death wish, by the way. like to point that out. Doomstride or not, you don't point a gun at Wolverine. But yeah,
maybe it's his first day on the job as a guard.
Now they have their exchange with Kelly, and he makes reference to how he's been put in charge and how these Sentinels are like roamers from the War of Westchester. So this is something that a lot of these books do that are tie into the Secret Wars. They make references to things that have happened in their history that we don't necessarily know of. Now, unless in X-Men Adventures, War of Westchester actually took place, I don't think it did. So I'm thinking because obviously not obviously. If you guys haven't read the story, obviously I apologize. On Battle World, 8 years, 10 years, something like that passes before the story actually picks up. So Doom World, Battle World, whatever you want to call it, has been set up, and these, I don't know what you'd call them, these territories have existed, thinking that they've been like that forever, for at least 10 years now. So they have a history and a backstory all their own. But we're kind of led in to understand that Apocalypse and Magneto and the evil mutants were like a really big deal very recently, for up to like 6 months ago. And then eventually the war was over, and somehow all the bad guys that were caught doing something never came back again. And Baron Kelly lets a little something slip about a place called Clear Mountain. Clear Mountain. Not so clear. So, the Wolverine smells something funny, so to speak. Haha. Funny. And the X-Men essentially have to go in to figure out what's going on. Oh, I will pull this up. This is a nice little homage to the show's intro as well. In the artwork, you got Cyclops, Gambit, Storm, Wolverine, and Jean Grey going head-to-head with Mystique, Sabretooth, Avalanche, Magneto, and Juggernaut. Now, can I just say, this Cyclops versus Juggernaut matchup is not a good matchup. And who is drawing Juggernaut looking like a damn... looking like he's constipated over here. He is mad. He is big mad.
I was going to say it looks like he just ate an extra large burrito from Chipotle like an hour ago.
Oh, yeah. Cup of coffee on his way to a bad day. But, that obviously is, again, I do that. I apologize. Not obviously, but that is an homage to the original cartoon series, if you're familiar with it. To their intro.
Which was great. I love that bit. Throughout all of this, there's so much stuff through the entire book. So just get used to it, folks. We're going to be pointing a lot of this stuff out.
Right. You got the original, X-Men animated show, Blackbird design back. They're flying to Clear Mountain, and they're met by the director. Now, the director is a little old lady, and you don't really think a lot of her at first, but you can tell there's something a little ominous about it. I don't know if this is just the way people think about things or whatever, but you never really trust the little old bald lady with the wicked smile that shows up as the director of anything, right?
And the cane.
Oh, yeah. But, she's a little old lady. Old ladies can have canes, but they can't be bald old ladies with canes.
Yes, but clearly the cane is just a front.
It's just meant to disarm you, is it? I mean, she does shove that
Exactly.
cane through somebody's head later on. But the last page introduces us to a lady by the name of Cassandra Nova. And you can just kind of already tell that this is not going to end well. But that's the end of issue 1. So all in all, like I said, it's a good book. It's a good series. We'll go ahead and get issue 2 loaded up here and move along. But all in all, like I say, it's a fun read. And if you don't want to be spoiled, then I would definitely encourage you to read it yourself. But
oh yeah, definitely. It's especially if you're around our age, you'll really appreciate.
I don't know, man. My dad, obviously a lot older than me, and he really enjoyed the X-Men animated series.
Oh really?
Yeah, he's the one that got me into comic books. But back in those days, before you had like DVDs and digital recordings, we would like stay up during marathons of this show and tape them and take turns cutting out the commercials on the tapes. And we would tape them in a fashion during the rerun so that we could get them all like in sequence, all the episodes, so that we would have all the different stories in order.
Nice.
It was a little obsessive, but we had a collection of video cassette tapes of this show.
Oh, I used to have. I don't know if you remember this. It was ABC Family, or one of those networks. Every year, I don't know. This is probably, let's say, like 94 to 98 ish.
Yeah.
Around Thanksgiving and Christmas, they would do like 12-hour long Three Stooges marathons. And that's like, in my family, like, Three Stooges is like the big thing. And my grandpa every year would tape it, like the entire marathon, and send it to us.
That's love right there.
Yeah, with the great Campbell soup commercial with the snowman that comes into the house and then like eats the chicken noodle soup and it melts away to like a little kid.
Yeah.
Like just commercials to order Randy Travis CD collections.
Matt Christie chiming into the chat. He remembers doing the video cassette thing and pausing the reruns or pausing the commercials, trying to get them in order. Man, piracy you used to have to work to pirate things. You sit around all day listening to a boombox with a cassette tape ready to record that one song you've been waiting a week to try and get.
Exactly.
Screw up and think
By the
you
way,
have it. Yeah.
To all you younger people that may be listening, that's where the term mix tape comes from.
Yep.
We actually had cassette tapes. It was a little plastic square with black ribbon looking stuff in there that spins and makes sound come out of it.
I told a buddy of mine, we'll get back to it in just a second, but I told a buddy of mine this past week that our kids are going to be so fucking spoiled, they're not going to have any idea why we say roll the window up. Anyway, issue 2 opens up. The team lands. Classic TV show team again. But we're kind of set for a very hard deviation by the end of this issue and next. The cassette was always recording on pause. Yep. You had to take, and if you wanted to record over a tape that somebody had, pulled out that little tab from, so you wouldn't record her over the Golden Girls or something like that, you had to put a little piece of Scotch tape over that tab.
Is this going to be like our generation's equivalent if I had to walk to school uphill both ways in 3 feet of snow?
It might be. I mean, we're reaching the people with this. Yeah, we had to clean the players' internals. We didn't even have compressed air back
Oh
then.
yeah.
Had to go to a damn, I don't know, somewhere you'd go to put air in your tires to get compressed air to clear out your boom box. Back in the days of blowing on cartridge, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh yeah.
But anyway,
Why isn't my GoldenEye cartridge working? I don't know. Blow it.
that couldn't have helped. It could only have helped to corrode things.
Yeah. You know.
Milli Vanilli was cheaper than blank tapes. That's good. But anyway, we have the X-Men team taking a tour of the Clear Mountain facility. Um, and one other cool thing is that they have little edits in the book so that they can say, you know, what they wanted to write, and then they'd cross it out and say inappropriate, please replace with this. They had a line where Cassandra Nova was hitting on Beast. But essentially, the Clearwater facility is home to all of the anti-heroes and villains that had been turned in during the war and during the battles and all that good stuff. And they're supposedly being rehabilitated. And you actually see some pretty, you know, recognizable faces in here. And they're all, you know, for lack of a better word, acting completely out of character. This is one of my favorite sequences. You see Toad and the Blob, and they're playing basketball. And again, with the artistic sequencing in this, like you see the movement in the page, and it's fantastic. The dialogue changes, the background stays the same, Blob face changes, and it's just really dynamic. I really like the way it's an evolution of the medium of, you know, sequential storytelling.
Oh yeah.
But you know, is this the answer? Is this what we're, you know, is this what the future is for comics, or are we kind of waiting on something better? I don't know, because I don't know that this is enough to draw in an audience. But that's neither here
Yeah.
nor there. That's probably a discussion
Yeah. I
for a
think this.
different day.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll table that for later.
But you know, Cassie Nova tells you that. By the way, that's the joke. Cassandra Nova, Cassie Nova.
Well, I just want to mention your favorite out of character villain was that. I like how Sabretooth goes and gives Wolverine a hug.
Oh yeah, yeah, and Wolverine just doesn't know how to handle it. But she's got like a 4 or 5 phase plan to, you know, make everybody a good person. Um, and you start to see the results, and it seems good. Um, but during that, you also see Professor X back in Westchester, and he's concerned about the team. He's got a gut feeling, whatever you want to say. Comic books, you know, comic logic happens, and
Well, I mean, he is psychic.
well, he doesn't really do that very much. Like that's the thing about
Yeah.
Xavier is that he doesn't like to spy on people.
Yeah.
But you know, there's a block on there's a block on trying to intrude with psychic powers, and that makes sense because there's maybe psychics at the facility. Um, you know, Jean Grey almost faints because of this, and that's the explanation we're given. And we're almost starting to assume this person's not half as bad as we assume they were. And then Xavier tries to check up on him and shifts to the astral plane. And in doing so, finds out, oh yeah, Matt, we'll be here when you get back, buddy. We got a bit to go. This is only issue 2. We may not even get to volume 2 tonight. I didn't realize we were running this long, but you know, we realize that there's something more afoul here, because when Xavier can't get in, he pushes a little harder and finds out that, you know, Cassandra Nova actually controls the astral plane somehow, and that's not really a good thing. In X-Men lore and Doctor Strange lore, the astral plane's kind of important and should not be controlled by bad guys. So that's where this particular sequence leaves us, and then
I will have to say I really like the color and design of the astral plane. It was very Jack Kirby-ish,
right,
in my opinion. I thought that was a nice touch.
yeah. Except, well, even some of the fingers are square. I'll give you that. That was his kind of trademark there. But again, you see how this person is giving the X-Men a tour, and then at the same time they're also having a battle of wills with Charles Xavier on the astral realm. So we know something bigger is at play here. I don't think it's this issue we find out what, but this is about. I think this is the about the end of this issue, isn't it? No, this is only the middle of it. Christ.
Yeah, no, we find out.
Okay, yeah, it's
who
this issue.
Nova actually is.
So Xavier attempts to mount an attack, and then eventually figures out that during the war with Apocalypse, he attempted to clone Charles Xavier, and didn't work out so well for him. He eventually was defeated, but some of the bats were undiscovered, undealt with, whatever. And the Shadow King figured out how to get his hands on a female clone of Charles Xavier, which is not a good thing. But again,
no, it's not.
Something you can do with the art in these books that you can't do in other ones, like, Cassandra Nova, Shadow King, Dominatrix. Now, let me just put it this way. I did not need this. This is not something that I needed. Was old bald lady in Dominatrix gear with flaming swords.
Is that not one of your fantasies?
No, not mine.
Oh.
Not for me. No, thanks.
Anyways, moving on.
But like I say, you figure out that the Shadow King has worked his way into a powerful psychic's body and has basically started fucking shit up and exerting his control over the Clear Mountain mutants, and he's the one keeping them in check. And then they have this really cool shot here. This is really trippy artwork, but the Shadow King defeats Charles Xavier on the astral plane and then breaks into his mind, literally.
Yeah, I love that full page shot. It's gorgeous.
Yeah,
and brutal.
So you see them walking through the gallery of Charles Xavier's mind, and this pretty much leaves Xavier a rubbled husk on the floor. A pretty accurate description, right?
Yeah, I would say so.
But it's around this time that the actual team figures out that there is an issue with this facility. But by the time they've got there, Wolverine's volunteered to show how much of an animal he's not. Which never go with not being an animal, Wolverine. Always embrace the animal.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll look through my files here, but now that's one thing that I will say about these. Like I said, it almost feels like you get double the content of a normal comic book in these. But when they were released for the same cover price as all the other tie-in for 2 of these issues of paper.
Right.
So, I don't know. Like these are really long issues. It took me almost 2 hours to read through these 8 books.
That sounds about how long it took me to read through them too.
I don't think it took that long in paper, but again, you didn't have to move through all the panels. I wasn't spending as much time like paying attention to the art.
Right.
But the X-Men argue back and forth about whether or not they should stay, and then they basically get sucked into treatment and sit down in some chairs and then strapped in. And that's pretty much the end of the issue. What's that? The last page there. So a lot of big revelations here. The Shadow King wasn't really a thing that I can think of in the show. I think we might have dealt with him once, like most of the villains in the show. Like a lot of the issue or a lot of the episodes were one shots. Oh yeah, I just flipped through that whole thing there. May get a copyright on that one. Probably not though. I don't think it's on there long enough. I can clip it if I need to. Boomer and shit up here. But yeah, the X-Men basically.
The Shadow King's first appearance was Uncanny X-Men number 117 in 1979.
No, I'm talking about in the show.
Yeah, I was just pulling the Shadow King up, seeing what else it says.
That was 79.
Anyways, yeah.
But what's
Let's see anything about the show. Yeah, I'm looking for the television. In 2 episodes.
Was he?
In flashbacks, he is the first evil mutant faced by a younger Charles Xavier who brainwashed his spirit to, or banished his spirit to the astral plane.
Right.
And he appears in a different show called Wolverine and
the X-Men. Okay, yeah. So yeah, 1 episode.
Voiced by Maurice Dean Wint.
Okay, so I was right. 1 shot. I like being right. Being right's good. So let's go ahead and get issue 3 pulled up. You find out essentially that she's trying to, I don't know, remake the X-Men in a more pure capacity by making them face trials. And the trials she's making them face are all psychic projections, almost like a danger room scenario in your mind. Wolverine's, I think, is probably the most interesting in this issue, though. Basically, she puts Wolverine up against a big group of bad guys, and as he defeats them, they slowly turn into him. I'll probably pull that up there.
Yeah, well, it's all. You have Silver Samurai, Omega Red, Lady Deathstrike.
Right.
Like, they're all kind of his.
Yeah, they're all his
rogues gallery.
Yeah. Rogues. So.
And I like that each, like, as he's coming out of each of the villains, like it's a different section of his life. I thought that was a nice little touch.
Where he first encountered them.
Yeah, and you have his costume from his first appearance in the Incredible Hulk, where it had the whiskers.
Yeah, which is fantastic.
Oh, it is fantastic.
The Canadian costume, the animal.
Yeah.
Patches.
Wolverine, Bone Claw Wolverine.
Yep. We'll move to that next, but you basically see him, and this is all like a psychic projection. They're all still seated in the chairs. So on here, let's get all that, and then once he realizes it's himself he's facing in his own head, they get the better of him. They pull off his face and reveal the regular yellow-suited Wolverine underneath. kind of an interesting display, but it's a weird concept, but I like it. If that makes sense, you
Yeah.
know?
Oh yeah. It's super weird.
Then you have a similar trial with what was it? It was not Rogan.
Well,
Go ahead.
Storm is the next one.
Right, and she quote unquote fails her trial, but before that, a new character, or not necessarily new, um, but a new character to the story interacts with Jubilee and basically makes her ditch her babysitters and run off after him. And then she finds a group that are called the Rejects, REJX, and these are basically the Morlocks, but they're not quote unquote pretty enough to be the new face of the X-Men. So you're starting to kind of get an idea of what the overarching plan is. We're trying to get a group of X-Men together that can be controlled and that have a good public image. So, you kind of get an idea of what they're doing in that regard, but you don't understand why when it comes to the Shadow King.
Yeah.
That comes a little bit later. It is finally explained, but anyway, Jubilee is introduced.
Well, it cuts from Jubilee going into,
Right,
or
Jubilee.
just running
Jubilee
out of there and
disappearing
saying,
to Storm, but
and
I
saying
get what
keep
you're
the
saying.
change dweebs to the babysitters, which
yeah.
I loved.
After she blows up their arcade machine, for God's sake.
Yeah.
But yeah, it goes back to Storm's trial, and Storm sees herself at different points in her life, and Cassandra tries to. Go ahead.
Can I just say I would love to see more Storm, like just loincloth Storm.
I'm sure.
Can we get more?
I'm sure you would. I'm pretty sure you can just turn off Safe Search and find that.
Probably.
Yeah. Rule 34. But I personally am fond of Mohawk Storm. Days of Future Past Storm.
Yeah. As that is actually probably one of the best designs, I would say, for her, as opposed to the shiny silver suit with the weird cape wing things that we have in this.
I always thought it was like a milk white suit with a metallic glare or something. I don't know.
I had no idea. But it is very goofy looking.
Yeah. With the big sleeve wings.
Yeah, whatever the hell they're supposed to be.
Oh well, they're designed to catch wind so that she can, fly.
Yeah.
But anyway, her trial basically she fails. Unlike Wolverine, she can't see herself as a leader and gets boxed in. But we find out later that this is all a ruse. But we don't know that at this point, so this looks bad. So right now, Wolverine is under the Shadow King's control, and Storm is immobilized. That's the score we're at in issue 3. What comes next? Are there more trials, or is it the trial of Gambit, or is it Jubilee?
No, it's back to Jubilee finding the rejects.
Yeah. REJ-X, folks. It's fantastic creativity. But yeah, she gets trapped in here with all these, rejected quote unquote mutants that have come. They don't fit the narrative, or they won't submit mentally, or something like that. Maybe their powers aren't worth anything. But we also meet an X-Man from, I believe, Generation X called Chamber. I don't know a whole lot about Chamber, but his aesthetic Chamber is Generation X, right?
I thought he was Ultimate X-Men.
No, he existed way before that. I think he was
really.
Yeah, I think he was part of Generation X back in the 90s or whatever.
Oh, okay.
With Husk. but he doesn't seem to have a mouth or a neck, and that's utterly terrifying, but awesome. Like some kind of energy plasma emission comes from his mouth and neck. It's a badass
Yeah.
design.
Oh yeah, it looks.
I just want to see how he
sweet.
doesn't ruin his clothes. Always my question, like, how are you not destroying your clothes?
Or how does he eat?
No, he doesn't need to. They mention that in the story. We find out in issue 4 that it's kind of a work or eat or a work to eat situation, and he says, "I don't need to eat, but the little ones in there do." Talking
Oh
about the
yeah.
smaller mutants and the rejects from the Morlock family. Um, but you know, it's portrayed here that Chamber might be kind of a villainous bad guy or something, but I think anybody that knows the character knows better.
Right.
So
His appearance though is I do like how
awesome.
menacing he looks. Yeah.
His appearance is awesome, but meeting him in season or issue 3, and that'll take us right into issue 4. Halfway there, folks. It's the halfway point. We're making okay time, hour and 2 minutes.
Yeah.
We spent 20 something minutes talking in the beginning. We're probably not going to get to volume 2, but
And you know, folks, this happens every time we try and do
every
a
time,
story like this.
every time.
I'm
We
always
should
like,
know
okay,
better.
I got to read 2 volumes of these stories. I sit down for a few hours and read all of these, and it's always just the first one we get through. I don't know why I still even bother reading the second volume.
Because you're a good co-host, Ayrton. You're a good co-host, and you enriched yourself by reading more comics.
This is true. Will somebody clip him out saying that, please?
No, I'm going to delete it from the stream. In fact, I'm going to stop streaming right now, and I'll be right back. I just want to put this into processing so I can delete it. I'm just going to delete the whole fucking first hour. F that guy. We open up issue 4. It's basically the conditioning of Gambit and Rogue. They put those two together. Gambit, look at that weird ass arm muscle. Like, and look how pointy Rogue's boobs are in this shot. This is kind of the strangest art that I've seen so far in this. But it's still not bad. Don't get me wrong. It's just very strange. Gambit needs to get that tumor. Gambit needs to get that tumor checked out. Well, Rogue needs to ditch the Madonna bra. But their whole trial and whatnot basically revolves on how quote unquote impure their lust and relationships are. I think this is the one where they talk about how we're taking the extreme quote unquote out of things. Before I get too far into that, though, I do want to point out that this also has another thing that's fantastic for new comic readers as a feature, and again, something that I think all comics should take into consideration if there's an existing backstory or an ongoing series. They do a previously in panel. And previously, after being invited to tour the Clear Mountain Institute, the X-Men were greeted by Director Cassandra Nova and the Bureau of Superpowers. They found some of Westchester's most aggressive mutants living in harmony in their isolated community. According to Nova, this was the result of a new psychotherapy called the Mind Field. Unknown to the X-Men, Nova used her powerful telepathy to attack Professor X on the astral plane, revealing herself to be the product of a cloning experiment put into motion by Apocalypse with a connection to the sinister Shadow King. Now Professor X has been left for dead, and the X-Men are the latest unwilling subjects of the Mind Field.
It's also very like 90s, Saturday morning cartoon where you always have that quick like 20-second previously on X-Men, the animated series.
Right.
And then you get all those quick like jump cuts of the previous episode.
Yeah. But the trial of Rogue and Gambit, leads them both to kind of look at their past a little bit, and we see Rogue and her memories of hurting her first boyfriend and then joining up with the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants under Mystique. Again, there's Juggernaut, even though he is not a mutant. I want to point out nobody despite what X-Men 2 told you, despite
3.
what Deadpool 2 told you. Was it 3? I thought it was 2.
No, it was 3 that Juggernaut was in.
I'm the Juggernaut, bitch! That was such a huge meme. But then they just ruined it by putting it in that movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, then Deadpool 2. The Juggernaut is not a mutant. His powers are magical. Sidorak is a demon. Sidorak is invoked by Doctor Strange. Magic, not mutant. Get it right. But we figured out a little bit about Rogue's past, figured out a little bit about Gambit's past, and essentially they almost kiss, and then Cassandra Nova pops her head out of a picnic basket. It's like, no, no, no! And that's probably the funniest part of this entire series, to be completely honest. Is just when she just pops up out of a picnic basket, like, no! Is that all you had to say with the laugh and say, yeah?
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
And how she just is standing in the picnic basket for the entire rest of the sequence, basically.
Right. Yes. But she talks about, I will never have you two together if I realized that it would result in this vulgar display of sexual tensions. Gambit says something racistly French. And then she cuts over, and they're like these little tiny mini X-Men watching, like little kid Havoc, little kid Nightcrawler, little kid Colossus. Who's the guy that? Oh shit! Longstar? No.
Yeah, I don't know who the other two are.
God, I would know if I hadn't just asked. In any event, it doesn't matter. She's got these little kid X-Men that are sitting around watching them, talking about how they have to be family friendly and all that good stuff. And she's explaining that this is the part where they do the reference. I'm trying to find the reference.
I like how the girl's like, who was that lady in the bed? Were you two gonna kiss?
Oh yeah. keep going.
I heard that. I heard that's how you make the baby.
Yeah. But they eventually get approved, so to speak. But after this really interesting sequence where she like dominates them mentally and turns them into puppets. And
yeah, that was really weird, but I really liked it.
Right. So it starts out and they're puppets.
Oh, that, and she also says to Gambit, always swinging your stick around and never getting anywhere.
But they're approved for the new team. So far it's Wolverine, Gambit, and Rogue that are approved, and Storm is not approved. Beast is rejected because of his appearance. So that it's actually a pretty short sequence with Beast. He he gets rejected, and then that's it. Like, they don't even really give him a chance. Jubilee, we cut back to her, and then Beast is thrown in with them, and that's when Chamber explains that they're basically stripping Sentinels of their limbs and heads and feet and stuff like that for something called Sentinel X, or X Sentinel, some kind of project of that vein. And then we, we cut back. We're told that we're back at Westchester, and out of nowhere comes X Force. Cable, Deadpool, Domino, whole gang, out of nowhere, no reason.
Yeah.
Just, but basically, Nathan Summers, Cable, most powerful psychic on the planet. He gets a call from Professor Xavier, even though Xavier doesn't approve of their methods, and they go to investigate. Warren Worthington, product
I
of
like how it
Apocalypse.
says.
Yeah.
I like how it says Cable, Harden, gun-toting murder from
Let me
show.
do this. You're
Diff-
roboting, but
different.
I know where you're going.
Uh,
Cable, hardened gun-toting warrior from the grim future. Go ahead and do Bishop. Let's see if it's any better.
all right, different gun, different future, just as hard.
Yeah, that was probably one of my favorite parts as well. All of these characters, well, Deadpool didn't really show up in the X-Men animated series, I don't think. But I know that Archangel
I don't
did.
think so either.
Archangel actually, they did a whole Age of Apocalypse, Four Horsemen, like mini series in the show. That was one of my favorite mini series.
I do remember that.
But Bishop, the Days of Future Past miniseries was pretty good too. Cable going after Apocalypse was pretty good. The show itself was fantastic. I wish instead of rebroadcasting old radio shows, that the show was in public domain and I could show that. But you take what you can get.
Right.
So, Matt Christie in the chat. I gotta say, I like Ryan Reynolds'
Only
Deadpool
Deadpool
in the live films. Go ahead.
He definitely. So Deadpool had made several non-voiced cameo appearances in X-Men the Animated Series, a flashback alongside Wolverine in one of Sabretooth's mental sessions with Professor X, morph shapes into Deadpool's form in the episode Whatever It Takes.
Right.
And Xavier's dark side projects the character's image to attack Wolverine in the episode The Phoenix Saga Part 2.
Okay. But never voiced, so it was never memorable.
Yeah.
Oh man, if we could get Ryan Reynolds to go back and voice those spots, just say something completely out of place, that'd be fantastic. Maybe we should start a GoFundMe for that.
Great. Just those 3 episodes, just one line of dialogue for each appearance.
Yeah.
That's all we need.
Yeah. Basically, they find Xavier in the fetal position, and let's see here. There we go. Yeah, they find Xavier in the fetal position, and it doesn't look good. But this is an X-Men comic. Everything's gonna be fine, guys. That pretty much leads us into the next issue. But as of right now, the only people that haven't really been interviewed, quote unquote, yet are Jubilee, who's already in with the Rejects, Cyclops, and Jean Grey. So that leaves that test to go into. We open up the next issue, and it goes pretty much right into them trying to figure out what the issue is, so to speak, with. Hold on. Did I boomer this up?
Uh-oh.
I always boomer this up. There we go. Nope. Nope.
No?
Maybe? Yeah, that's better.
We good?
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
Okay.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Maybe. Dude, are you fucking this up? Absolutely. But, X Force is basically taking care of Xavier. And then we figure out that Jean is basically sitting silently in the middle of. Anybody in the chat remember the Crow? This is yes, do it, Matt Christie. But anybody in the chat remember the Crow? She's sitting in the middle of a fire phoenix that is a straight rip homage from the Crow. And when Cassandra Nova gets close enough to her, she signals for Scott, who's holding the snack tray in the shadows for Wolverine, to blast her with laser beams out of his
It's not a
concussive force beams.
It's not a.
I fixed it.
Yeah, because they even do that. They do that in here.
Yeah. So that's essentially how that goes. But essentially, they battle it out the same way the rest of them do, and Scott Summers and Jean Grey won't relent. They won't give up their control of themselves or the Phoenix Force in Jean Grey's case to save themselves. So, they're rejected. And what comes next is. What is it that comes up next?
X-Force showing up to the scene.
At Clearwater. Cable does this thing where he slides them in, so to speak, and that sounds dirty. But at the same time, Psylocke eventually figures out that there's some psionic residue, basically, from Cassandra Nova's attack. So Psylocke goes investigating on her own.
Which is a fantastic sequence going through her looking at each person's trial.
Right. But she finds basically a breadcrumb trail back towards the source of the professor's anguish, I guess, and essentially brings him back to life, so to speak.
Oh, is this the reference you were looking of? It's one of the edit, quote unquote, edit notes. This kind of extreme violence is definitely unacceptable. Please revise to something less fatal.
Yes.
Was that the?
Yes. What page is that
on? 49.
Okay. Yeah, let me get to that, folks. I'm not going to bring it up, but it is fantastic. Also, Cassandra Nova cycles through several of the X-Men villains in this. I wish I could show it all, but she puts her head on Mr. Sinister's outfit, on the Watcher's body, on the heads of most of the X-Men. She are like comrades and villains. On the head or she puts herself as Strife, Cable's twin brother. She makes herself into Apocalypse. But then Psylocke finally, there we go. Yeah, I got that there. So, where are we at? Close that. Very professional here, folks. I know exactly what I'm doing. I am an expert.
We're doing it live.
I am better than the Young Turks, at least. There we go. So, Yeah. Psylocke shows up and snaps Apocalypse Cassandra Nova's neck. Then you have another one of the editor's notes, and you get to see a little heart text box where you can see that Psylocke has a crush on Scott Summers. So, also, let me just put this out there: how many X-Men characters need to have sashes? Psylocke has a sash. Captain Marvel has a sash. I mean, really, like that what era is that from that they're all wearing these side sashes? Like, does that not get in the way?
No, see, it adds to the aerodynamics when they're doing all the fancy like flips and cartwheels and stuff while they're fighting.
Okay. It makes it like those Olympic themed
Yeah, exactly.
gymnastic events. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she basically breaks the Cassandra Nova's control in the minefield, so to speak. And then obviously Scott and Jean are, rejected from the events, but Psylocke frees Jean Grey and then looks very distraught about it. Kind of goes head to head with Cassandra Nova at one point and then disappears after she defeats her in the astral realm with a psychic knife. When even Xavier couldn't do that, but I think it's because Psylocke was, not expected. But then Nova snaps out of it and then realizes they're under attack by the actual X-Force and basically calls in the Sentinel to attack. The multi-headed Hydra Sentinel thing.
The X Sentinel.
10 Sentinel, they call it.
10 Sentinel, yeah.
I do have to show this panel, though, because it's freaking hilarious.
Which one are you pulling up?
That one. Oh, wait, you can't see the screen share. Never mind. I'm sorry. Why didn't you say something, you asshole?
Because I've been just scrolling through as we've been doing it on the reader, so I haven't had the call pulled up.
You've been doing it live, haven't you?
Yeah.
This is the scene I have to pull up.
You think all those references I've been saying in here are just from my memory? Come on. You should know how to do
that. That scene. That's the one that I have to pull up. The one with Deadpool using Sabretooth decapitated head as a prop.
That's what I thought you were going to pull up. I just wanted to check.
But yeah, so even though the story is kind of long, they do a lot of different things like this to kind of keep it interesting and fun. At no point during the entire time reading this was I fatigued reading it, and that's saying something. Because usually when you read this much comic in one sitting, you're just like, oh god, I don't want to anymore. I'm done. But everything was done for a purpose instead of to lengthen this. I don't think there's any particular part that was done to lengthen the story. If that makes sense. It doesn't feel like this was milked for anything.
Yeah, it was all actually necessary to telling the story. And even the unnecessary stuff like Deadpool using Sabretooth's head as a prop. But that's something Deadpool would do, so it's okay.
Well, and to keep in mind, back in '92, Deadpool wasn't the fourth wall-breaking anti-hero we know today. Deadpool was actually a bad guy when he was first introduced.
Yeah.
We should do character history episodes.
I'll add it to the list.
Ayrton is the keeper of the list. Anyway, once
I had a badge made up and everything.
Yeah, and then I took it from him. He can't have a badge if I don't have a badge. Anyway, when Cassandra Nova ends the trial of Scott Summers and Jean Grey, it apparently snapped Betsy back into her body and breaks the hold that Cassandra Nova had on Xavier. And Xavier apparently gained Cyclops' powers for a panel because his eyes started glowing and he said, "Before she assassinates Baron Kelly."
It's like that anime eye glow when they like touch their glasses.
Right. So that's the end of issue 6. Or issue 5 rather. That's it. It's a long read. Previously
But it doesn't.
on X-Men 92.
But as you were saying, it does not feel nearly as long as
It doesn't.
how many technical pages we read through.
Right. Well, that's because each page was like one panel change.
Well, but I'm saying though, like someone grabs one of these and sees issue 6 is 68 pages long. Well,
yeah.
not technically.
Now we cut open at issue 6, and it's giving us a lot of that old Saturday morning cartoon extrapolation. The newest exhibit, which they spell with an X dash hibit, like the rapper. Oh wait, no, there's no Z. Can he sue for that? Can they sue for that? Who knows? Bears the name of the man speaking at the opening ceremony, Robert Kelly, Baron of Westchester, and a man many hold responsible for the lasting peace and the carnage yet to come. So he's giving a speech to the people, talking about keeping the peace, blah blah blah. The most interesting thing about this panel is the Sentinels, their braces, and his silver steeds that are sitting like people.
Yeah. Well, one is. The other one's sitting like a dog, I guess.
But they're not dogs. They have beaks.
Well, I meant like the position it's sitting in. It looks like it's a dog, and the other one's sitting leaned back with its elbows on the Sentinel.
Yeah. So Psylocke has apparently lured Baron Kelly away from his guard, and Xavier is telling him that, hey, there's an issue, people are dying, blah blah blah. And they get arrested because that's what you do to minorities. But then we cut back to Clear Mountain, and Cassandra Nova, apparently taking the time to make sure that her chosen X-Men have time to visit the hairdresser and the stylist. Look at these outfits. Look at these outfits.
Yeah, those are something else.
Everybody has a Cyclops visor because those things are cool. Rogue's hair is huge because the Shadow King's been in the astral realm since the 80s when that was popular. Gambit doesn't even look like Gambit. He looks like Cyclops.
But he has the 4 card suits on his
So
chest,
you don't confuse him with Cyclops.
Yeah, exactly.
But you can see here that she really does not like using code names to refer to X-Men or mutants. So she refers to them all of their given names: Remy for Remy LeBeau, Anna for Anna Marie, and Logan for Logan. Even though the origin of Wolverine told us that Wolverine's name is James Howlett, and she's a powerful psychic that could have probably dug that out in about 2 minutes. But comics.
But also everyone here would know him as Logan, not necessarily James. So it
also let's take a minute here and look at the stair step height difference. Like Rogue's a good head and a half taller than Wolverine.
Well, yeah, in the comics, I think Wolverine's like 5'5" or something like that.
5'1", I think.
Oh, 5'1".
I don't know. He might be taller than that. Wikipedia that.
I'm pulling it up.
Yeah, Wolverine looks really short. Matt Christie says he does. And how do you like how the coats like accentuate the bulge of the male characters? I hate to bring your attention to that, but definitely a design flaw in the costumes, right?
Well, is it a design flaw, or was that done on purpose?
Was this intentional? Who knows? But that's her chosen X-Men team. She introduces them and then tells the X-Men to run. But meanwhile, in the quote unquote minefield.
Oh, 5'3".
5'3". Okay, so it's halfway in between what we thought. Good to be right again.
Yeah.
I like being right.
Half right.
See what I did there. But essentially, Storm, Cyclops, and Jean Grey all find themselves and each other in the minefield now that Cassandra Nova's abandoned them. And this happens around the same time that she's giving X-Force the option to quote-unquote run. And we initially think that she's telling them to run from her X-Men, which, I mean, do you see the size of the guns Cable and Bishop carry? They're bigger than Wolverine, for God's sake. They are not the kinds to run. And then she explains to them, I'm not telling you to run from me, sweetheart. I want you to run from the fact that you're going to be the ones that the government's going to be after in about 5 minutes. Which ladies? Oh, at least you can tell the ladies are. Who the ladies are, okay. That's the that's the benefit of the outfits. Is that what you're saying, Matt Christie?
I think I could get behind that.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, there was a certain person that made girls wear skirts, and that didn't end well. But we're not going to go there. Anyway, X-Force is standing off. X-Force and Jubilee, I should say, are standing off with the X-Men, and then we kind of keep moving forward. Beast catches up with them. Chamber, with his lack of a lower jaw and intestinal tract. Wolverine uses the "it's just not polite." um,
Yeah, all of this was a ton of fun.
Yeah.
Like this whole section right here is just great.
Storm throws down lightning when they finally reunite with Weapon X. But anyway, Robert Kelly is. We switch back to him, and then a little girl runs up and asks Xavier to sign her lunchbox, and he can't because he's being arrested. And then we're introduced.
Well, hold on.
Yeah.
Then Baron Kelly offers to autograph her lunchbox, and she says, I don't know. What's your power?
Now, this is the most interesting part to me here. When I heard X Sentinel, I expected something a lot more grandiose than this, but I'm so glad that this is what we got. Like, literally a Sentinel held together with twine and prayer.
That's fantastic. I love also when we get into the next issue, like how it shows it talking, like the delayed letters. Annoying to read, but looks really cool.
Right. But basically the Psylocke has already gone to work on the guards, and then this thing lands. So that's always kind of a problem. That's the end of this issue, though. So it does speed up. We're reaching the climax of the story. 2 more issues to go. So the beginning of issue 7, if I can get it pulled up. Nowadays, you never know, says Matt Christie. I want to eventually be monetized on YouTube if we survive that long. So I'm not gonna confirm or deny that statement, but I'm gonna give you a hearty wink, wink, and you'll understand.
I thought next week we were going to play Who's Hot and Who's Scott.
I thought it was Moon Man, but whichever one. But the issue opens up with Cassandra Nova's X-Men coming to the rescue, and we get the moral lessons from none other than Wolverine in a folk garb outfit. I really hate these costumes. These costumes are fucking awful.
But kind of like wonderfully awful.
They remind me of the Royal Flush Gang costumes from the old Justice League cartoons.
Yeah, that's fair.
But Wolverine steps in and he's like, "Call me Logan, kid. Hope this ordeal hasn't soured you boys on museum. There's a world of culture in these halls." Like, some shit you would never experience Wolverine saying, right? So
I like how he still calls people bub.
Yeah.
In this mental state.
This is what you were talking about, though, the Sentinel in a speech pattern. This Sentinel has been programmed to kill Robert Kelly so that Cassandra Nova can take over as Baron of Westchester in Doomgrad. So, all the X-Men are saving people, but everyone, like Cassandra's X-Men, are just leaving Kelly to die. And he doesn't quite understand that that's the plan. He thinks that he has everything under control. And
now,
oh, go ahead.
So, I thought it was. I want to know where Psylocke got just a regular sword.
Oh, these things are just these things are just available.
On page 18,
I've got it here.
I looked at those 2 panels for like a good probably minute and a half when I first read this. Like, wait a second, where did she
also
get
out of her handcuffs without them being unlocked?
Yeah.
But
I was very confused by that.
She cuts Robert Kelly's steeds loose, and I don't even know what they are. They're like Silver Surfer dogs with beaks.
I don't know. What do they call them?
I didn't catch that they had a name.
I swear they called them something in one of these. I don't know. Keep going.
She just points and says, "Bite." And they go to work, but
Warwolves is what the Sentinel calls them.
Oh, that must be on the next page. I just didn't see it. But yeah, Psylocke comes to Baron Kelly's rest. We are under attack. Aggressors identified as werewolves. Yeah. But Psylocke tries to save Kelly, gets saved by Worthington, and then the guards for Kelly try to stop Psylocke, and then Cable steps in and says, "Yeah, no, not so much." And again, you have this huge fucking gun. Like, I love the size of these fucking guns. Like, he's looking into a scope, and the actual out barrel of this gun is as big as this guy's head. Like, why are you looking through the scope, dog? You got it pointed at him. That's enough.
I think these past couple issues could just be called X-Force Out of Nowhere.
Yeah. But again, we have a really interesting transition because the paneling again gives you so many options. Like, this is how it starts, and then so anyway, Cable calmly diffuses the situation without violence or having to use his humongous gun. And then the cavalry arrives. Storm has been busy freeing mutants. We've got the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. We've got Chamber, Toad, got Blob, got Avalanche, got Pyro. Everybody's coming to the rescue. But Wolverine finds a woman strapped in a car and goes to save her. And the only thing that he can do to save her is pop his claws and cut the car apart, but he won't use his claws because of his programming. And the woman says, "Get
Claws,
Cyclops."
but they're dangerous.
Yeah, the woman says, "Get Cyclops," and then when he says that, that kind of like breaks the spell. I guess he hates Cyclops that much that this happens. So, classic Snikt takes place, and then Wolverine saves the woman. Basically snaps out. Yeah, using sights at point blank range.
Not just a sight, a full on scope.
Yeah. So Wolverine snaps out of it. So we know that this can be reversed. Wolverine thanks the lady for breaking him out of his spell or whatever. Rogue and Gambit quickly follow once they realize that they can't touch one another. And then Cassandra Nova kind of goes fucking apeshit and releases the full power of the Shadow King, which is again, it's an impressive little exchange. You've got this scene, and then it's quickly answered with Jean Grey and the Phoenix Force. Because apparently animated Jean Grey can just tap into the Phoenix Force whenever the fuck she wants to, which would have been handy during a lot of battles, but you know, continuity.
Right.
So, like I said, everybody kind of snaps out of it. Cassandra Nova and Jean Grey get into it, and she defeats Jean Grey, but realizes that that was a diversion set up for Charles Xavier, who's apparently already bleeding by the eyes, and unleashes the psychic forces of none other than Onslaught from the Onslaught saga, and add it to the list. Onslaught was probably one of my favorite little asides, even though I read it when I was so young, I don't even remember why. It was so good.
All right. It's added.
Okay. So, Age of Apocalypse and Onslaught. We got to come up with some DC shit to put on the board for people because this is a lot of Marvel to go through. But this little interaction here, Onslaught punching the Shadow King out of Cassandra Nova, ends issue 7 and leads us into our climactic, final issue 8. Which, when I set out for this topic, I was looking at it like, it's not going to take us that long to read these at all. These are digital comics, and I was wrong. So, Caliban saves Gambit, who was injured, and this seriously pisses Rogue off that Gambit was injured. So Rogue, in a more 90s comic appropriate costume, full Y cleavage, goes to fucking a Sentinel
and no longer has the Madonna bra.
Right. Full round boobage. But she proceeds to fucking up the Medusa Sentinel, while Professor X and his psychic onslaught personality continues to battle with the Shadow King. Now, I don't know why he was already bleeding from the eyes, nose, and mouth when this battle started, but there's this really empowering moment where the four strongest psychics in the Marvel universe like joined powers to defeat the Shadow King.
And I love that he gets a gigantic gun from Cable.
Right. Well, that's I mean, when Cable's involved, and that's the old the whole ending of that there, like not the ending of the story, but what happens when all of these psychics come together. You get Phoenix wings, a big ass sword, and a big ass gun. Because why not?
Yeah. What else would you want?
So apparently these four are just powerful enough to defeat the Shadow King. Cassandra Nova is no longer possessed, so she's carried with Baron Kelly to safety. Deadpool is almost killed, but saved by Wolverine, who has found a Wolverine costume T-shirt to put on,
and somehow a pair of jeans.
Yeah. Well, he had that on under the white, layers.
Oh, okay.
It's cold in New York.
It's chilly up in the mountains. Yeah.
It's cold in New York and in the mountains, all that stuff. But we've got Yellow Text Deadpool, where we broke free of Nova's brainwashing. Jordan Deadpool's my other book, White, X-Men 92, Chapter 7. And then Deadpool's referencing, I read that one, but I'm not sure how. Oh man, they're gonna sell so many of those shirts. Talking about the Wolverine shirt.
I like in the previous page where Storm says, "Hold your ground, we will not fail," and Deadpool, "Speak for yourself, lady. This thing is about to become a collector's item. The death of Deadpool."
Yeah. And somehow the issue is resolved by the giant Cable gun shooting the Shadow King at the Shadow King. Because comics. I'm pretty sure Clint was lending his psychic power to the hamster Clint was lending his psychic power as well, because that's the only way this makes sense.
Well, then shouldn't the psychic construct have a mohawk then?
Probably. It's under the helmet. Now, the Sentinel is eventually finally taken out by Jubilee and her magnificent laser tag skills, tying all the way back around to issue 1.
Which was nice. I thought that was a nice little callback.
Yeah. And that's what stories used to do. Gambit finishes it off with actually Jubilee finishes it off, but Gambit does get his kiss from Rogue as he passes out after driving a supercharged Wolverine bike into the Sentinel before Jubilee kills it. So very Gambit of him stealing a kiss as he passes out from...
And says worth it.
Yeah. So, let's see. And then once it's all said and done, Jubilee wakes up at the X Mansion. Scott and Jean take off on their vacation. Um, Rogue is in the green suit with circles around her boobs for whatever reason. Um, Everything's taken care of, everything's wrapped up, and it's a nice little lead in to the ongoing series that would start after Secret Wars 2015. That we will eventually have to talk about on a later episode because apparently we are bad with time management and can never do 2 volumes of anything in one show.
I mean, I still don't know how we did all of that World War Hulk in one show. We must have flew through that.
Oh yeah. I think once we got down low on time, I just skipped over a lot of crap that wasn't interesting. But that's the first volume of Marvel Infinite Comics X-Men 92. It did lead into a 10-issue series that was supposed to be ongoing, but apparently didn't sell for crap. So it ended after 10 issues. I was prepared to talk about the first volume of that, but we will have to postpone that for a later date. All in all, I really like the concept. I don't think that it was carried over as well into the ongoing month-to-month series.
Yeah. So
go ahead.
It's kind of a niche market, I guess you could say.
Right. Well, it's a nostalgia market.
Yeah. But you really have, I don't know, what would be the age range? Up to maybe 35?
I don't know.
Of people that are on average. On average, it's going to be between
that remember that old show? No, man. I think it would be. I don't know. I mean, maybe they need to syndicate some of these old shows to try and drum up some interest.
Yeah,
because a younger audience. Because that's and again, this is a topic for a later date. But if I was going to have my piece on it, I'd say that these old shows did a lot for the younger audience. And I can't honestly say I would have stayed interested in comic books if it weren't for those old shows keeping me interested when I didn't want to read a lot when I was younger.
Right. And yeah, like I said, that was my introduction to superheroes, was that and the Spider-Man and Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. I remember that being on.
Oh no, Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. No, this was Spider-Man the animated series.
Yeah, well, I also remember that one too, in that vein of superhero cartoons from my childhood.
God, I'm such a boomer. I was too old to watch Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. But
it's so bad, but it's so great.
Right. But that's volume 1. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Pretty good story. I think we left enough out that you would still be able to enjoy it if you went back and read it today.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, there are a lot of little nuanced pieces that you get in there. Now, when we circle back around to this particular topic, we'll probably, obviously, I got to stop doing that. You got to start calling me out on my vocal tics.
Yeah.
We'll talk about volume 2 on the next I don't know, installment of this particular series. The first 4 issues were really good. There were a couple of issues that I had with issues 5 and 6, and the last few issues were okay, but the last issue was garbage because they tried to tie up the entire series when they weren't prepared to.
Yeah, that ending was weird.
Matt Christie says his parents were boomers, so I'm not sure how you are. It is a colloquial term for an idiot who can't do things on the internet. And as far as I am concerned, I am a boomer with OBS because I just can't. You know, make the audio work, keep the pages circulated, run the actual show. I'm a boomer.
Not mute yourself.
Right. I'm just the fucking worst. I'm so goddamn old. Even though I'm, only in my 30s, I'm still so goddamn old.
Go listen to yesterday's episode if you haven't done that yet, Matt.
Yeah, no shit.
You'll see what we're talking about.
Yeah, I muted myself like 3 times and forgot to unmute myself. I'm worse than Sargon over here, man. But in any event, I know Nikki Rackett isn't streaming tonight, but I do want to go ahead and play us out with an honorary song in regards to the depositions that have been going on. So, like I've stated before, I appreciate everybody that came out to watch. Hit like, subscribe if you're not already. Share this with your friends. Share this with your enemies if you didn't like it. Leave some feedback. Hit me up on Twitter. All of that good stuff. But most importantly, just thanks for stopping by. Thanks for watching. And I'll go ahead and cue up the outro music. Ear juice. The fuck? Oh.
What?
No, the outro? No. No, you should appreciate this, Matt Christie. I found this. It's apparently 6 months past when it actually came out. But I think it's appropriate considering Ricada has been doing the depositions. So it's a little remix of PewDiePie's Bitch Lasagna. So anyway, thanks again, guys. Have a great night. I'll see you next week.
Good night, everybody.
You claim there's lots of victims, you say that you won, but we still ain't seen no proof. That ain't how this country's run. You've been trying to tell us about all the awful things he's done. I thought it was so much fun. Kissy face emoji, now his career's gone. So come on, naysayers, you just trying to spread the drama. Here, let me stand with Vic Mignogna. Vic Mignogna, Vic Mignogna. The industry ain't nothing without Vic Mignogna, Vic Mignogna, Vic Mignogna. Looking for information, they just adding to the drama. Vic Mignogna, Vic Mignogna. Still nothing but hearsay, but now his career's a goner. Vic Mignogna, Vic Mignogna. Anime ain't nothing without Vic Mignogna. If you don't have the proof, then why you wanna kick him? I don't know about you, as for me, I'm standing with them. Voice of Broly, he was doing great at Funimation, but then they fired him, all thanks to baseless allegations. You're an Nazi, what the frick is that even supposed to mean? That you can't do your research in the anime community? If you ain't got the proof, take your mouth and shut it, cause you just spreading hate that I promise no one wanted. Listen, Vic Mignogna, Vic Mignogna. The industry ain't nothing without Vic Mignogna, Vic Mignogna, Vic Mignogna. Looking for information, they just adding to the drama. Vic Mignogna, Vic Mignogna. Still nothing but hearsay, but now his career's a goner. Vic Mignogna, Vic Mignogna. Anime ain't nothing without Vic Mignogna. All of the population agrees that